Tade's day starts like any other, busy, confident, and a little playful. He's at work preparing for an important client presentation, joking with his colleagues about how love makes a man forget deadlines. But beneath his charm, there's guilt eating at him. Early that morning, he sent Sola, his fiancée, a breakup text as a prank. He wanted to see how she'd react, maybe tease her a bit later, and then laugh about it together. But she didn't reply. Not a word. He's tried calling once, but when she didn't pick up, he brushed it off, assuming she was being dramatic. Now at the office, as his phone rings, he answers casually, but the voice on the other end freezes his blood. It's a nurse from a hospital. Sola's been in an accident. She was on her way to see him that morning when it happened. The phone almost slips from his hand. The nurse's words echo in his mind. You need to come quickly. In that moment, everything stops. The presentation, his colleagues' chatter, even his breathing. All he can think is, what have I done? Tade dashes out of the office, ignoring his boss's questions. He drives like a man possessed, the Abuja traffic blurring around him. His hands shake as he grips the steering wheel. Flashbacks of Sola's last smile fill his mind. Her laughter, the way she always told him, Tade, you don't take life seriously enough. He used to think that was part of his charm. Now it feels like a curse. Every honk, every red light feels like punishment. His heart races with regret. He replays the text in his mind. Those careless words meant to be funny. I think we should break up. I can't do this anymore. What was he thinking? Tears burn his eyes as he speeds toward the hospital, whispering prayers between shallow breaths. The hospital smells of disinfectant and quiet panic. Tade bursts through the emergency doors, shouting Sola's name. A nurse rushes to calm him, telling him to wait. The minutes drag on like hours. He tries calling her phone, but it is switched off. He sits in the waiting area, watching families whisper prayers, doctors rush past, and the clock tick louder than usual. Every sound feels heavy. He remembers the last few days, how Sola had been questioning him about their wedding, and how he teased her for being too serious. The irony breaks him. He presses his palms together and mutters, Please, God, don't let this be the end of my foolishness. After hours of waiting, Tade is finally allowed to see Sola through a glass partition. She lies there motionless, pale, bruised, and hooked to machines. Her once lively eyes are closed. The sight crushes him. He places a trembling hand on the glass and whispers, It was a joke, Sola. Just a stupid joke. Memories flood his mind. Their first date under the rain. Their shared dreams. Her laughter when he promised never to hurt her. Now he feels like he's broken that promise in the worst possible way. The guilt is unbearable. When the nurse asks if he's okay, he can't answer. He's not. The door opens suddenly. Sola's mother and sister, Titi, enter with fury written all over their faces. Titi grabs Tade's shirt, shouting, Are you happy now? She was coming to see you when it happened. Her mother pulls her back, tears streaming down her face as she says to Tade, Leave. You've done enough. Tade tries to explain that it was a misunderstanding, that the breakup text was just a prank, but his words sound shallow against the pain in their voices. He sluggishly walks out of the ward. Standing in the hallway, he watches the door close between him and Sola, and realizes that he may have lost her forever. Tade doesn't go home. He sits on a bench outside the hospital all night, watching cars come and go. The world moves on, but he's frozen in regret. His mind replays their relationship. How she always brought balance to his carefree nature. How she made him believe in love again after years of heartbreak. He finally admits to himself that Sola wasn't overreacting. She was right. He didn't take things seriously enough. His childishness has now turned into tragedy. As dawn breaks, he whispers to himself, If she survives this, I'll never play with her heart again. The next day, a nurse tells him Sola has regained consciousness. Relief rushes through him. He runs toward her room, but before he can enter, TT stops him at the door. She doesn't want to see you. Tade wants to force himself in, but TT leaves no chance for him. He peeps through her shoulder and sees Sola awake, weak but alive. Her eyes open briefly, and for a second, they meet his. But then she turns her head away and closes her eyes again. That single movement shatters him more than any words could. He realizes that surviving the accident isn't the same as forgiving him. After a while, he leaves the hospital with a heart full of sorrow. Back home, Tade scrolls through their chat history. His messages sit unread, The apology he sent after the accident, the follow-up calls, everything. He types again, but stops midway. What's the point? She won't read them. He throws his phone on the bed, lies on his back, and stares at the ceiling. His apartment feels empty without her laughter echoing in it. He replays every conversation where she warned him about his jokes. Every time she said, "Not everything is funny, Tade." He used to laugh it off. Now he finally understands. Days turn into weeks, and Tade goes to the hospital daily with flowers and apology notes. But Sola refuses to see him. Her mother always sends the flowers back. Even the nurses begin to pity him. He stands by the hospital gate every evening, hoping she'll change her mind. One morning, a nurse quietly tells him, "Sometimes love needs space to heal." But how can space heal something broken by his own hands? He starts to wonder if forgiveness is too much to hope for. One evening, Tade arrives at the hospital with fresh flowers as usual, only to find Sola's bed empty. Panic grips him. A nurse explains that Sola was discharged earlier that day. He asks several questions, but the nurse answers with a folded note. "Thank you for everything, Tade, and don't bother to find me. I'm gone." Tade sits in his car, staring blankly at the paper. Everything feels hollow. The world, the air, his heartbeat. For the first time, he realizes that forgiveness may not be something he can chase. It's something he must earn. And to earn it, he might have to lose everything first. After a few days, Tade sits in his apartment, surrounded by silence that feels heavier than noise. The flowers he once bought for Sola now sit dry and forgotten on the table. His phone buzzes, breaking the stillness. It's a mutual friend. He hesitates but picks the call after a brief pause. The friend reveals that Sola may have traveled to Lagos to stay with her sister, Titi. That single piece of information sparks something in Tade: hope. It's the first real clue he's had since Sola disappeared from the hospital. Without wasting time, he begins to pack. But as he folds his clothes, doubt creeps in. What if she doesn't want to see me? What if I make things worse? Still, he reminds himself that doing nothing is worse. This isn't just about explaining the prank anymore. It's about fighting for the woman he almost lost. As he zips his bag, his hands steady for the first time in days. For the first time since the accident, he has direction. And he's ready to follow it, no matter where it leads. Just as Tade prepares to leave, his phone rings again. This time, it's his boss. The tone is sharp, impatient. Tade is reminded of the important presentation he abandoned the day of the accident. The company has been covering for him, but they can't keep doing that. His boss gives him a clear ultimatum: return immediately and fix the damage at work, or consider his position terminated. Tade stands there, torn between two worlds, the life he built and the love he's losing. For a moment, he imagines staying back, fixing things at work, pretending everything is fine. But the image of Sola lying unconscious at the hospital bed flashes in his mind. That moment decides everything. With a quiet but firm voice, he says, "I understand." He ends the call, knowing exactly what that means. As he walks out of his apartment with his bag, he feels the weight of his choice. He may be walking away from his career, but he refuses to walk away from Sola. Lagos greets Tade with its usual chaos: blaring horns, crowded streets, and restless energy. But to him, everything feels distant, almost unreal. His mind is focused on one thing: finding Sola. He checks into a modest hotel and immediately begins searching. He visits places he knows she once loved: the beach where they had quiet conversations, the cafe where she loves visiting. Each place holds memories, but no sign of her. As he walks through the city, memories begin to flood in more vividly. He remembers how she laughed at his jokes, how she always tried to ground him when he got too playful. The contrast between those memories and his current reality is painful. By evening, exhaustion sets in, but he refuses to give up. Lagos is big, overwhelming even, but he believes she's here. And that belief is the only thing keeping him going. After hours of searching and asking around, Tade finally finds the address of Sola's sister, Titi, and he heads there immediately. Standing in front of the gate, his heart pounds. This could be the moment everything changes, or the moment he's completely shut out. He knocks. When the gate opens and Titi sees him, her expression hardens instantly. There's no surprise, only anger. Before he can even speak, she says, "You have a lot of nerve coming here." Tade pleads with her, explaining that he needs to see Sola. that it was all a misunderstanding. But Tade doesn't soften. Instead, she reveals something that hits him like a blow. Sola is no longer in Lagos. She left days ago for Ghana. The words feel unreal. Just when he thought he was close, she slipped further away. Tade tries to ask for more details, but Tade shuts the gate in his face. Standing there, alone again, he realizes this journey is going to be harder and longer than he imagined. Back in his hotel room, Tade finally lets himself break. The room feels suffocating, the silence unbearable. He replays everything: the prank, the accident, the hospital, and now this. Every step forward seems to push Sola further away. His phone rings again. This time, he doesn't even want to answer, but he does. It's his boss. The conversation is short and cold. His position has been filled. He's officially out. Tade stares at the phone long after the call ends. For a moment, everything feels empty. He's lost his job, his stability, and possibly the woman he loves. All because of one careless decision. He sits on the edge of the bed, head in his hands, and whispers, "What have I done?" But even in that broken state, one thought remains clear: giving up won't fix anything. Morning comes, but Tade hasn't slept. The exhaustion shows in his eyes, but there's a new determination beneath it. He sits quietly, thinking about everything he's lost and everything he still hopes to regain. Walking away now would be easier. He could remain in Nigeria, start over, pretend this never happened. But deep down, he knows that regret would follow him for the rest of his life. So he makes a decision. He's going to Ghana. Not because it's easy, not because he's sure it will work, but because it's the only way he can live with himself. He books a flight, using what little savings he has left. As he confirms the ticket, a strange sense of calm settles over him. For another time, he's never running from the consequences of his actions. He's facing them. And that realization marks the beginning of his change. On the flight to Ghana, Tade sits by the window, watching the clouds drift by. The quiet gives him space to think, really think, about who he has been and who he needs to become. He pulls out a small notebook and begins to write. Not jokes, not clever lines, but honest reflections. He writes about his flaws, his carelessness, and the pain it has caused. He writes about Sola, her patience, her strength, her love. For the first time, he sees himself clearly. Not as the charming, funny man everyone admires, but as someone who has avoided responsibility for too long. By the time the plane begins to descend, Tade feels different. Not healed, not forgiven, but aware. And that awareness is the first real step toward change. Ghana feels unfamiliar, yet strangely welcoming. Tade arrives in Accra with no clear plan, only determination. He starts by visiting places where Nigerians often gather: restaurants, cafes, community centers. At each place, he shows Sola's picture, asking if anyone has seen her. Most people shake their heads, but a few offer small leads: a mention of someone who looks like her, a vague memory of a recent arrival. Days pass, and the search becomes exhausting. His money is running low, and doubt begins to creep in again. What if she doesn't want to be found? But just as he begins to lose hope, someone recognizes the picture. They mention seeing her at a small cafe not far from the city center. It's not much, but it's enough. Hope flickers again. Tade walks into the cafe with a mix of hope and fear. His eyes scan the room slowly, and then he sees her. Sola is sitting by the window, calm but distant, reading a book. For a moment, the world seems to stop. She looks alive, stronger than he last saw her, but there's a quiet sadness in her posture. Tade doesn't move immediately. He just stands there, taking in the sight of her, overwhelmed with emotion. This is what he's been searching for, the chance to see her again. Finally, he takes a step forward. But just as he does, Sola looks up. Their eyes meet. Recognition flashes across her face, followed by something colder. Without a word, she stands, picks her bag, and walks out. Tade freezes. He's found her, but he's not sure if he's any closer to reaching her. Tade rushes out of the cafe, his heart pounding. He looks around, searching desperately, but Sola is already gone, swallowed by the busy street. He runs down the road, calling her name, ignoring the stares of strangers. But there's no response, no sign of her. Slowly he stops. The realization sinks in. Finding her is not the same as reaching her. She's still running, still hurting, still unwilling to listen. Standing there, out of breath and emotionally drained, Tade finally understands the depth of what he's done. This isn't something he can fix with a quick explanation or apology. If he wants her forgiveness, he'll have to earn it. Patiently, honestly, and completely. And for the first time, he's ready to do exactly that. After the painful moment at the cafe, Tade refuses to leave things unresolved. He returns the next day, earlier this time, waiting outside patiently. Hours pass before Sola finally appears again. This time, when she sees him, she doesn't walk away immediately. There's hesitation in her eyes, a silent battle between anger and curiosity. Tade approaches slowly, careful not to overwhelm her. He begins to speak, his voice calm but heavy with emotion. He explains the prank, how it was meant to be harmless, how he never imagined it would hurt her this deeply. He admits his foolishness openly, without excuses. Sola listens, but her expression remains guarded. When he finishes, she looks at him for a long moment and says quietly, "You don't break someone's heart and call it a joke." Her words hit harder than any insult. Before he can respond, she turns and walks away again. But this time, she didn't run, she listened. And to Tade, that small moment feels like the tiniest crack in a wall he's desperate to break through. Tade decides he won't pressure her again. Instead, he chooses consistency. Every morning, he shows up at the cafe, not to beg, not to argue, but simply to be present. He begins leaving small things behind. A cup of coffee the way she likes it, a short handwritten note, sometimes just a simple, "I'm sorry," without any long explanations. At first, Sola ignores everything. She walks past him like he isn't there. But over time, she starts noticing the details, the way he keeps his distance, the way he never forces a conversation, the quiet patience in his actions. People who see him around begin to talk about him. Some admire his persistence, others think he's foolish. But Sola remains silent. Deep down, she feels something shifting, but she refuses to let her guard down too quickly. Meanwhile, Tade struggles with exhaustion and doubt. Every day he shows up without knowing if it's making any difference. But he keeps going, because for the first time, he understands that love is not about quick fixes, but consistent effort. One afternoon, Tade finally gets a chance to speak with Alma, one of Sola's close friends in Ghana. At first, she is cautious, protective of Sola. But when she sees the sincerity in his eyes, she agrees to listen. Tade opens up completely, not just about the prank, but about who he has been as a person. He admits that he has always hidden behind humor, avoiding serious conversations, never realizing the damage it could cause. Alma listens quietly, observing not just his words but his tone, his body language, the weight of regret in his voice. She sees a man who is no longer trying to defend himself, but one who is trying to understand his mistakes. Later, Alma shares this conversation with Sola. She doesn't pressure her to forgive Tade, but she tells her honestly, "He's not the same man you left." That night, Sola sits alone, thinking deeply. For the first time, she allows herself to consider the possibility that people can change. But the fear of being hurt again still holds her back. Tade receives a call from his friend Kunal back in Nigeria. The conversation is light at first, but it quickly turns serious. Kunal informs him that his former company has officially replaced him. There's no position waiting for him anymore. The reality hits hard. Tade is now completely jobless, far from home, and running low on money. For a moment, fear creeps in. Real fear this time, not emotional, but practical. Kunal asks him if it's worth it. If chasing Sola is worth losing everything else. Tade pauses before answering. Then he says quietly, "If I don't fix this, I'll lose more than a job." After the call ends, he sits in silence, reflecting. He realizes that this journey has already changed him. The man he used to be would have chosen comfort. But now, he's choosing responsibility, no matter the cost. Knowing that words spoken may not be enough, Tade decides to write, not a quick message, but a deeply honest letter. He spends hours on it, pouring out everything he feels. He writes about the prank, his regret, the accident, and how it changed him completely. He doesn't try to justify anything. Instead, he takes full responsibility for his actions. He also writes about his losses, his job, his stability, but makes it clear that none of those matter as much as the pain he caused her. Most importantly, he writes about growth, how this experience has forced him to become someone better. When he finishes, he doesn't feel relief. He feels exposed. vulnerable in a way he's never been before. He leaves the letter for Amma to deliver it to Sola without waiting for a response. For once, he chooses not to control the outcome. Late that night, Amma hands over the letter to Sola. At first, she hesitates, unsure if she even wants to read it. But curiosity wins. As she reads, her emotions begin to shift. The words are raw, honest, and unlike anything Tade has ever said before. There's no humor, no charm, just truth. Tears fall quietly as she reaches the part where he admits losing his job. She realizes how much he has sacrificed just to make things right. But even as her heart softens, the memory of the accident lingers. The fear, the pain, the betrayal, they are not easy to forget. She folds the letter slowly, holding it close. For the first time, she doesn't feel anger. She feels conflict. And sometimes, conflict is the first step toward healing. After leaving the letter, Tade makes a difficult decision to return to Nigeria. He realizes that staying and chasing her endlessly may only push her further away. The journey back feels different from when he came. There is no desperation this time, only quiet acceptance. He has said everything he needed to say. The rest is up to her. Back home, he doesn't return to his old life immediately. Instead, he chooses to rebuild himself slowly. He starts volunteering at a youth center, sharing his experiences and teaching young people about responsibility and emotional maturity. For the first time, he begins to live differently. Not for appearances, not for validation, but for growth. Even though he still misses Sola deeply, he no longer feels lost. He has found something within himself that he didn't know was missing. Weeks pass quietly. Tade begins to settle into his new routine, slowly finding purpose again. Then one evening, there's a knock on his door. When he opens it, he freezes. It's Sola. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The silence is filled with everything they've been through. Finally, Sola says softly, "I needed to see for myself." Tade steps aside, still in disbelief, and lets her in. His heart races, unsure of what this moment means. She looks around his space, noticing the simplicity, the changes. She sees a different version of the man she once knew. And in that moment, something shifts. Not completely, but enough to open the door to what comes next. They sit together, facing each other, with no distractions this time. The conversation is long, deep, and honest. Sola speaks about her pain, not just from the accident, but from the emotional shock of believing he ended their relationship so casually. She explains how it broke her trust, how it made her question everything they had built. Tade listens without interrupting. This time, he doesn't try to defend himself or lighten the mood. He simply listens, fully, attentively, and respectfully. When it's his turn, he speaks about his growth, his regrets, and the lessons he has learned. He doesn't ask for forgiveness directly. Instead, he says, "I just want you to know I understand now." That statement hits differently, because this time, she believes him. The silence after their conversation is heavy but peaceful. Both of them have said what needed to be said. Sola looks at Tade, really looks at him, and sees the change not just in his words, but in his demeanor, his patience, his humility. Slowly, she reaches out and holds his hand. Her voice is soft but steady as she says, "I won't pretend it didn't hurt, but I see you now." Tears fill Tade's eyes as she continues, "I forgive you." In that moment, the weight he has carried for so long finally begins to lift. Not completely, but enough for him to breathe again. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it opens the door to a future. And for Tade and Sola, that door is finally open. After the moment of forgiveness, nothing magically becomes perfect, and that's what makes it real. Tade and Sola both understand that forgiveness is not the same as instant healing. They begin again, slowly and carefully, like two people learning each other for the first time. Their conversations are more intentional now. Tade listens more than he speaks, choosing his words with care. The playful version of him still exists, but it is no longer careless. It is thoughtful. Sola, on the other hand, allows herself to open up again, but not without caution. She sets boundaries, expressing her fears honestly. And this time, Tade doesn't dismiss them, he respects them. Their relationship feels quieter, deeper, and more grounded. There are no grand gestures, just small consistent efforts, shared meals, long conversations, and moments of silence that feel comfortable instead of tense. For the first time, they are not just in love, They are building something stronger than before. Tade knows that earning Sola's forgiveness is only part of the journey. He still has to face her family, the people who saw her pain up close and blamed him for it. When he visits their home, the atmosphere is tense. Sola's mother watches him carefully, her expression unreadable. Titi, her sister, is still visibly guarded. Tade doesn't try to impress them. He simply speaks from the heart. He apologizes, not with rehearsed words, but with genuine emotion. He admits his mistake fully and acknowledges the pain he caused, not just to Sola, but to all of them. There is a long silence after he finishes. Then Sola's mother finally speaks. Her voice is calm but firm. Love is not something you play with. If you hurt her again, you won't get another chance. Tade nods, accepting her words without argument. It's not forgiveness, but it's a step forward. And for him, that is enough, for now. As Tade continues rebuilding his life, an unexpected opportunity comes his way. One of the people who attended his sessions at the youth center happens to be connected to a marketing agency. Impressed by Tade's honesty and communication skills, they recommend him for a role. During the interview, Tade is different from the man he used to be. He doesn't rely on charm or cleverness. Instead, he speaks with clarity, responsibility, and sincerity. He shares not just his professional experience, but the lessons he has learned from his personal mistakes. A few days later, he received the call. He got the job. This time, the success feels different. It's not just about career growth, it's about redemption. It's proof that he can rebuild what he lost, not by pretending to be perfect, but by becoming better. One evening, Tade asks Sola to meet him at a quiet park. There's nothing extravagant about the setting, just a calm atmosphere, a gentle breeze, and the soft glow of the evening sun. As they sit together, Tade becomes unusually serious. He takes a deep breath and looks at her with a sincerity she has come to recognize. Slowly, he goes down on one knee. But this time, his words are different. There are no jokes, no dramatic lines. Just honesty. I don't promise to be perfect, he says. But I promise to be present, to listen, and to never take you for granted again. Sola's eyes fill with tears. This moment feels real, grounded in everything they've been through. When she says yes, it's not just out of love. It's out of trust that has been broken and rebuilt stronger than before. As they begin planning their wedding, the atmosphere is completely different from before. There's less pressure to impress others and more focus on what truly matters to them. Family members who were once distant begin to reconnect. TT slowly softens toward Tade, noticing the consistency in his actions. Even Sola's mother begins to show quiet approval through small gestures. There are moments of laughter during the preparations, but also moments of reflection. Both Tade and Sola are aware of how close they came to losing everything. That awareness makes every step feel more meaningful. Their love story is no longer about perfection, it's about resilience. The wedding day arrives, simple yet deeply emotional. There's no unnecessary extravagance, just genuine joy shared among family and close friends. As Tade stands at the altar, waiting, his mind drifts back to everything that brought him here. The prank, the accident, the loss, the journey, and the forgiveness. When Sola walks in, all those memories fade into one overwhelming feeling, gratitude. Their vows are heartfelt and personal, reflecting not just love, but growth and commitment. When they finally say, I do, it feels like more than a union. It feels like a victory over everything that tried to tear them apart. After the wedding, Tade continues his work at the youth center, but this time with a larger platform. He begins speaking at events, sharing his story openly. He doesn't present himself as a hero, but as someone who made a serious mistake and had to face its consequences. His message is simple but powerful. Words matter, and actions have consequences. People connect with his story because it's real. It's not about perfection, but about accountability and growth. Sola supports him quietly, proud of the man he has become. She sees how his pain has transformed into purpose, and how his past mistake is now helping others avoid the same path. Sola, too, reflects on her journey. She realizes that forgiveness was not just for Tade, but also for herself. Holding on to the pain would have kept her stuck in the past. She begins to understand that love is not about avoiding hurt completely. It's about choosing to heal and move forward when hurt happens. In quiet moments, she thinks about the accident and everything that followed. Instead of pain, she now feels strength. She survived not just physically, but emotionally. Her story becomes one of resilience, a reminder that even broken trust can be rebuilt when both people are willing to grow. Months later, Tade and Sola settle into their new life together. Their home is simple but filled with warmth. The little things, shared meals, inside jokes, quiet evenings, mean more to them now than ever before. Tade surprises Sola one day, not with a prank, but with something meaningful, a framed painting of the two of them, titled Second Chances. When Sola sees it, she smiles, understanding the deeper meaning behind it. This is no longer a relationship built on assumptions or careless actions. It's built on understanding, patience, and intentional love. If you find this story meaningful, kindly like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories updates. Also, what lesson did you learn from this story? We would like to know in the comments. Thank you for watching.